What exactly is the concept, at least in simple terms, of Torah Lishmah that was articulated in Nefesh HaChaim? Is it understood correctly by lay people? Just learning Torah for its own sake? Is there something more than that in that concept of Torah Lishmah?
Rashi interprets Torah Lishmah on the Talmud as learning Torah for its own sake. And that really is a simple meaning. You know, there was a Rav Pinchas of Polotsk, who was one of the he was one of the Rabbis of the Groz's children, and Alan Nadler wrote a whole book about him in the Faith of the Mitnagim. So he says, when we say Torah Lishma, it's not Torah Lishmo. It's not like the Hasidim say that you have to think about God while you're studying Torah. When you're studying Torah, you're connecting to God. So it's Torah Lishma, the Shem HaTorah, for the sake of Torah. For Rav Chaim, the studying Torah is not just an intellectual exercise. If the Torah is the word of God, then through my mind, I'm connecting to the word of God, which means I'm connecting to God. Tikkunei Zohar, the Zohar says that Kuchabrichu Yisrael ve'oraita chadhu. God, Israel, and the Torah are all interconnected. What does that mean? What it means is the Torah is the word of God, and the Jewish people are the people that God chose to keep the Torah. It's interconnected as a process. So when the Jew studies the word of God, they are now connecting to God's will, and that's connecting to God. For Rav Chaim, as for instance, in the book Torah Lishmah, which was written by Rabbi Norman Lamb years ago, already in the 70s, it was his doctorate. So he mentions already that the connection to Torah for Rav Chaim is a mystical connection. It goes beyond the intellectual exercise of studying Torah. The intellectual exercise is what we do when we study Torah. We study Torah intellectually, but simultaneously, it is creating a metamorphosis within our soul, because we're connecting to the source of the Torah, which is God. What was sometimes called almost unio mystico. It's a form of dveikut. It's a form of clinging to God, and this happens through the mind. We have, by the way, a source for this in the Zohar. At the beginning of Tikkunei Zohar, the Zohar talks about Gilui Eliyahu derech sechel, which means the revelation of Elijah through your mind. Now, we knew in the Talmud that the Talmud talks a lot about the revelation of Elijah. How exactly happened, I don't know. The Talmud talks about Rabbi Shulam ben Levi bumping into Eliyahu Navi. The Zohar says that sometimes you bump into Eliyahu Navi not as an individual, but through your mind. So it's like a level of perception. So this is sort of similar to Rav Chaim. Rav Chaim really believed that you could even get Ruach HaKodesh just by studying Torah and connecting to the Torah. We find a very unusual statement of Rav Chaim in the Shiltot literature, in the handwriting, by the way, of Yosef Zundel of Salant, who was very close with Rav Chaim. And he talks about that when you are studying Torah, and you've gotten to a point where you feel that you're studying Torah Lishmah. What is Torah Lishmah? Torah Lishmah means that you're not doing it because you want to be smart, because you want people to call you such a great rabbi. You get to that moment of purity of thought, where you're just involved in the sugya of Torah and you're not thinking about anything else. So when you get to that point, so Rav Chaim says you can actually ask the Torah a question, because the Torah is the word of God. It's almost like it's basically a level where you can ask the Torah a question. And he says you think of the question, and the first answer that pops into your mind at that point, that's the Torah giving you an answer. So Reb Chaim thought that this was a potent moment. If you felt that you connected that much to Torah, even the Torah will help you, because it will give you a moment of Ruach HaKodesh. So I don't know if everybody understood Shar Daled that way of Nefesh HaChaim, but definitely for Reb Chaim, it's it's almost a mystical experience which simultaneously transcends the intellectual exercise which you are doing at the same time. It's happening in your
You're not leaving the intellectual journey.
That's right. It's in your subconscious mind. You might be aware of it every now and then. But for Rav Chaim, if I had to say it in simple lingo, when you connect to the Torah is dialoguing with you. And then you start discovering things, what he calls a chidush. Rav Chaim says that anybody who gets a real chidush in the Torah, it says in the Zohar that they inherit all these worlds, upper worlds, because you have now connected to the upper worlds. You think you just came up with an intellectual idea, but no, you're interacting with the Torah. So he really sees this as something sort of metaphysical happening at the same time as the Limud Torah.